Perfect. So, can you all hear me, and are you all awake? Excellent. I am thrilled that you're here because I think this is a particularly important topic that we're going to discuss today, which is recruitment without bias, and we're talking about transforming HR. We have a wonderful panel, and I just want to point out that we do have multiple people from HR, and we also have somebody who is at the sharp end of what HR delivers, which is ISWAN. So we're going to have really different perspectives on stage. If you have burning questions that you want to ask, at any point you are welcome to put a hand up, and then I can come to you and allow you to ask a question. I'm a bit of a strict moderator, so it cannot be a statement. Statements are for coffee, questions are for our wonderful panel. This is going to be quite conversational, so I'm going to encourage our panel to jump in if there's anything that we want to talk about. But let's talk about the trends in recruiting right at the moment. So what are the trends that we are looking at the moment, and what are the leading gender and cultural biases that may be challenging recruitment? Because we know that, I mean, multiple panels today, everyone said shipping is a man's world. Incorrect. It is traditionally male-dominated. Don't think it's a man's world. Feel free to disagree with me, and then I will have to fight you. But can we talk about the challenges that you are facing? And let's start with you.
Hi, thanks, Namrata. So just a little background about me. I'm a newbie in maritime industry, so please, just a little courtesy show towards me is what I can
We'll
say.
be gentle. No one here will bite.
No, of course, thanks. So coming to the question, the recruitment trend, basically, I think what I see today is it's a candidate market. Mm-hmm. And that's my personal view, of course, is because today the employers have to make an attempt, have to do a lot of employer branding, and tell the world that, hey, this is what we are offering, this is how the culture in the organization is, and these are our leaders. Because the candidate, the moment they get a call, first thing they are going to do is just go on LinkedIn or go on Ambition Box and go on Glassdoor and try and read about the organization.
They're going to do their own research.
Absolutely. So I think the trend is not about just me as an employer rejecting a candidate or just simply looking at the CV. I think gone are those days. It's also about ensuring that I'm being fair in the assessment as a recruiter or as an employer.
And I think that's really interesting, right? Because you're not just selling the job, you're selling the culture of the company. If people are doing their own research. Can I check, how many people here, before you accepted a job, did your own research and Googled the company or Googled the people at the company? If you've done this, put your hand up. Great. This is a really good sign. And for those who didn't, you're missing out. There's a trick. Everybody else knows. Right. Let's come to you, Monal.
I think I'll take a step back.
Okay.
Here. And before we really look at recruitment, I think it's also about the industry. Mm-hmm. So the shipping, ports, and logistics industry per se. I think over the years, while there's been a lot of awareness that has been created, but still people are a little apprehensive to join this sector per se.
The barrier to entry is really high.
Yeah, and I think there are multiple reasons why people are apprehensive. It could be physical infrastructure. Most of the operations are beyond city limits most of the time. Plus, as you said, people still have a perception that it is male-dominated, so-called, which today may not be actually true.
I think it depends on the subsector, but absolutely.
Yeah. So I would say that, therefore, attracting candidates to this industry is the first challenge that we have. And then the second challenge, of course, is to be able to sell your own brand. Any brand, I mean, it could be DP World or PSA or any brand for that matter, but how effectively you're able to sell your brand, that's the second step. So while organizations may take targets for diversity, mm-hmm. It becomes difficult because the number of people applying for those posts, the gender diversity candidates applying for those positions are very limited. So your choice is again very limited.
So absolutely, your point was that you need to be noticed first as an industry before you can then sell your subsector, right? I'm going to come to you, Bhooshan, and then I can see that you have something to add, Gauri. Or do you want to add quickly, and then I'll come to Bhooshan?
Yeah, I would just say that the challenge of attracting talent, diversity is not limited to maritime.
Correct.
I think I come from hardcore sales, product sales background, and I know that, having somebody sell a switch or any other product door to door is not that easy again, getting the women candidates. And I'm sure, Bhooshan, we were just talking about it a while ago, and we agreed on that point.
No, that absolutely, just building on to what Gauri said, that, people are very aware and they do their research. My challenge comes in where this research is not coming in from the right sources, right? A lot of them are depending on social media.
Yep.
And you know what, how social media portrays seafaring as a profession. Not always telling you the challenges, but always looking at the glamorous side of it.
Yep.
And that's my initial challenge, even when I can attract and get people on board, the reality is very different. And
Correct.
then for them to sustain this career becomes very difficult. And I'm talking more from a seafarer's point of view. Office and maritime shore-based roles are very different, but for the seafarers, this is one challenge that I definitely face. Yeah.
And Simon, I'm going to come to you in a second to talk about what the seafarers are facing, but I wanted to make sure that we speak to Ruchita first.
In terms of bias which the industry is facing, I think I have a very different point of view. I think the industry is moving more in terms of maritime from muscle to brain, with data coming into action, with AI coming into action. There are tons of roles which are coming for each and every single person to apply for. So nowadays, it's not just restricted where we say that, for this role, only men can apply for, or women can apply for. And more importantly, as an organization, how you are portraying to the outside world, being very gender neutral or very, very neutral in terms of what you put outside to the world.
Or being inclusive, right?
Yeah,
Absolutely,
very, very
using
inclusive.
language
Your job descriptions have to be very inclusive in nature. The kind of questions which you ask while you are at the recruitment panel, what kind of people are sitting at your recruitment panel makes a lot of difference. And once one candidate has that experience, I think it speaks a volume to others, because they are the ones who carry your brand outside.
Correct.
They will talk about you. So when we say that we have to portray our brand, I think while the experience you give to the candidate during the whole process of recruitment cycle makes a lot of difference, your brand automatically, I would say, goes out there in a positive manner if the process is well taken care of.
And I think that's a really interesting point, because we know there's plenty of studies that talk about the fact that women, when we're looking at jobs, we look to check if we can actually do the job as being described, and we try to tick every single box, and where we don't, we're like, oh, I'm not the right fit, I'm not going to get this job. And we know that men tend to, and I'm going to just quote it and say, fail upwards, and they'll be like, I'll learn, they'll teach me, there'll be training, I'll figure it out, it'll be fine. And I have this personally, right, I'm generally quite confident, and I applied to be on the board of a port. And the only reason I ended up applying is because somebody from HR actually took the time to speak to me, and they were like, no, you should apply. Whereas I was like, I'm not grown up enough to apply, and I was already in my 40s. Like, right? We all feel like imposters. But Simon, let's talk about, they've all talked about kind of bringing people in, and I thought Bhooshan's point of saying there might be a gap between what's being portrayed, where people are getting their information, and the tough realities of life at sea. Specifically, can you talk to us about what you're seeing in terms of how big is the gap, and how badly are people faring?
Yeah, well, I've always said, if you were looking for an agency to go out and recruit seafarers...
Could you put your mic slightly closer? Yep.
I've always said that if you were looking for an agency to come and recruit seafarers, don't come to us. Because unfortunately, just the very nature of our work, helplines, we get to hear about the very worst cases. Abandonment, detention, mental health issues, suicide. And so therefore, that's not a good picture to portray about what the industry is about. Of course, it is so much more than that, but I think we have to take into account, you're going to recruit people into this industry, but to some extent, you've got to be honest with them about what to expect. And if you want to encourage a more diverse range of people to come into the industry, what support are you going to give them afterwards? What preparation are you going to give them to be able to cope with what they might be faced with? And we get on our helpline quite a few calls from cadets, for example, and they're worried about their first voyage. They're not talking about whether they're going to be able to do the job. That's not what worries them. Their biggest concern is what's going to be the culture on board? What's going to happen if I make a mistake? How will I be received? How will I be accepted? So I think, you know, there's got to be some honesty with candidates about what to expect.
I think it's a really interesting thing because, as you pointed out, it's social media where people are getting a lot of their information. And we know that social media, it's an extreme. You either have amazing stories where you're like, I love my job, everything amazing, or this is terrible and I've been betrayed and everything sucks, right? There aren't the balanced narratives. And that often, to my experience, relies on family members or, as you said, ambassadors of people. Could you talk to me about what you have done to try and make sure that your ambassadors actually are truthful? Like, how do you incentivize them to be like, hey, talk to them about the hard days that you have?
Like for us, the good thing is that our cadets are getting trained at our own center of excellence. And what we do is we get our own seafarers to come and meet them, talk to them about what kind of culture, what kind of values that we embody, and what can they expect life at sea, like, you know, because
so peer-to-peer conversation.
Like, and it's not like I have to speak to a captain to understand that. Like, can I speak to a second engineer or a fourth officer who's, like, you know, just been promoted from a cadet to the next rank, and he is actually telling me what the reality is or how his or her journey was. I think that really adds the reality to it, giving the good and the bad side of the story to them. Yeah.
Ruchita?
Yeah. While we talk about brand ambassadors, what we are doing as on today is when we hire freshers from the campus, we are trying to bring them and give them an experience of a day how a terminal operations look like. Okay? They get to understand that how the life would be. They see operators working. They see engineers working in the ships.
So it's real life experience, yes. Like hands-on.
Correct. That's for people who we hire as freshers. For people who we are hiring as experienced, I think for them, the first phase, other than the social media, is your recruiter. So what the recruiter talks about and what the experience that person gains in the very few interactions during the recruitment process makes a lot of difference. Also, your interview panel, the kind of questions they ask and how do they make the candidate comfortable. As a woman, if I am being interviewed, I will be thinking through whether this person is going to ask me about whether I want to have kids, yep. or questions like this. So your interview panel really needs to be trained to understand that these are a no-no questions. When we are talking about equality, equity, diversity, inclusivity, this is something which we ensure that our panels are not doing. And hence, we have diverse panels, so the recruiter talks, the managers talk, then the senior leadership also talks, so that people do understand that at various levels, we do have people who are talking the same language. So when they see that all levels are talking same language and they are going through a similar experience, that itself talks about the culture of the organization. So that's what we are doing.
And can I just check, your interview panels, do they get trained before being on an interview panel? Everybody is nodding, so yes, everybody gives their panels training?
Honestly, I won't say that there is a lot of training happens, but we do ensure that the interview panel knows that what is a no-no.
Yes.
Yeah. And of course, you want to be very realistic with what culture you have within the organization. So you cannot be telling the interview panel that you have to talk these 5 points. So whatever image they carry about the organization is what they should show during
they should be authentic.
Questions. Yes, they should be very, very authentic.
Gauri.
Yeah, I agree that what Ruchita
Gauri, go ahead. Gauri first.
Okay.
And then Simon, and then we're coming to you, Bhooshan.
What Ruchita just said, I think hiring managers sensitization to a level, that's where I think HR's role come in picture. And as a marine HR also, the team that we have back in Seaspan, I think they all come from seafaring background, largely of course. And I think that's where they understand possibly, you know, when it's a seafarers hiring that they are doing. However, on the support staff also, I totally agree that we may not have as many trainings, but I think as a part of the culture, as you are interacting and when there are rejections as a HR, when you ask them that why that rejection, and if at any point the reason comes in like, okay, possible maternity or possible, going away or whatever, I think that's
you're looking for
the
patterns.
point. Yes, that's where I think the point comes in of telling them this is a no-no.
Simon.
I think over the years of recruiting people and being recruited, the thing that I've realized more than anything else is it's a natural human tendency to recruit in your own image.
Absolutely.
You go for what you recognize. And I've been on the receiving end of this for nearly all of my working life. I left school when I was 16.
Do you not feel disadvantaged being a white man in maritime now?
No, well, the disadvantage I had is that I didn't go to university and I didn't have a degree.
Fair.
And I've worked in places where that has always been seen as, well, that's essential. And so I know that there are many roles that I didn't get because the educational bit, there's nothing there.
And life experience doesn't count, which is bizarre.
No, and there are people who look for that. Now, surprisingly, I have survived without that degree. But I've also done it myself. And I can remember one particular occasion where I was looking for an HR manager. And I had the applications in front of me. And I read this application. And it was, oh, yeah, this is good. This is quite impressive. But in the covering letter, the candidate had said, despite my disability, I have, and then it went, and I immediately, that's a shame, and I put it to one side. And then I thought, hang on a minute, why am I doing that? Actually, this is of no relevance for the role that I'm looking for. So I then, I thought, no, I'll put that one back in. She got the job, and she turned out to be one of the best people I've ever worked with. So, I think it's really about when we have people in front of us, you've really got to think outside the way that you normally think.
You've got to overcome unconscious bias.
Yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't, and there is training involved, but it's something quite human.
Yeah. Bhooshan, you wanted to add a point
So I was like, the hiring managers that who are hiring for you are not HR. Right, so you have to. I don't think there's a choice that you have to train them, even if it's a technical interview.
Well, I mean, otherwise
there's
legal liability like
there's
nobody's
a clear
business.
checklist that you're following this, or I'm using a psychometric assessment. I can't expect an ex-seafarer to understand what psychometric assessment is, so I'll have to train them. Or if I want them to conduct a behavioral event interview, so I'll have to train them how to conduct it. So I don't see a reason or a way out of not training the hiring managers and let them interview and do a regular conversation and come back and give me judgments, right? I want a clear objective assessment. So that's what we follow at least.
And I think that makes sense. And actually, I was going to say, I'm going to come to you. And one of the questions that I wanted to ask is, we already talked about this being a lot more digital now, right? We're hiring digital natives, we're hiring younger people, we're looking at something different. Let's talk about the ways in which our hiring has to change and the ways in which, as HR and as custodians of company culture, because we often talk about seafarers and we spend a lot of time talking about seafarers, and we know that the majority of people in maritime are on shore, right? Whether you're talking about lawyers or you're talking about insurers or you're talking about HR managers and all of you. There's a lot of people on shore. Let's talk about building that company culture. So how are you hiring now when you're trying to hire digital natives, and how do you set them up for success in maritime companies? I'm going to come to you, Monal.
So, one of the things that everybody said is the recruitment bias or the recruiter's bias.
Correct.
Because most of the times we try and bring in our own replica. Okay. So couple of things that we are looking at as an organization, of course, is first is the use of AI in resume screening. In fact, it starts one step ahead. The job description is more gender neutral.
So do you ask AI to make it more gender neutral?
So what we did was we hired an external consultant who reviewed all our job descriptions and ensured that the job descriptions are gender neutral, they are more collaborative, they do not have terms or phrases which indicate bias. So that was step one. Step two is resume screening, use of AI in resume screening. Again, that eliminates personal biases, individual biases.
Depending on your coda, but yes.
But you're right, it depends on how strong is your job description and how therefore the AI is able to really read the JD and take out the keywords and give you the kind of screening. Sorry.
It's okay.
And lastly, I think the next is now we are moving into.
Would you like some water? You absolutely can. And I was going to say, Simon, you look like you wanted to jump in, so I'm going to let you jump in while she hydrates and we come back.
Yeah, this part of the conversation makes me realise that actually maybe I need to leave the recruitment to others because I am completely out of date. And in fact, as an example of that, we're looking to recruit somebody at the moment, and one of the other members of the panel, we're doing the shortlisting, actually pointed out, I think there's AI has been used in this application. I didn't see it. And you know, if we are going to attract younger people, then we need people who are going to understand that and understand how we're going to get the best out of those people at interview and beyond.
Actually, I'm going to challenge that. I'm going to actually come to my to our speakers to challenge that because I think if I've understood HR as well as I hope I have, it's different skills for different generations and different groups of people, right? You absolutely need people who can be like, that was written by AI and this person doesn't mean any of this. This was clearly ChatGPT or Gemini or DeepSeek or whatever. But you also want people who have been, and in Simon's case, a police officer for 20 years and has a good read on people. And you can tell when you've got your, I'm just going to call it what it is, a bullshit meter where you're like, this person's lying to me, this person's saying what they think I want to hear versus how they're actually going to be. So I'm going to come to you, and then Monal, you had a point that I wanted to actually, I'm going to let you finish, and then I'm going to come to you. Sorry.
I just wanted to add there is that, technology cannot completely replace what a human mind can do.
Absolutely.
Right? But everything has its pros and cons, and we have to use it very judiciously to see that we don't overdo.
Correct.
But then the fact remains that we are also facing biases. So therefore, Simon, to your point, it's a combination of both, right? It cannot be only one methodology that will work for everything.
So to ask a question to the panel, which I know that we didn't discuss before, so I'm aware of putting you on the spot. If I was a candidate and I was like, okay, I'm going to be screened by AI, you know, you're like, someone's not going to, like, it can feel really scary, like a machine is judging me worthy or not. Should I be using AI to say, look at my resume and look at this job description and then write me a cover letter to match it?
They're doing it. So, in fact, I was addressing a bunch of management trainees at one of the premium management institutes in the country, and one of them gets up and asks me, like, you know, isn't it unfair as a recruiter that you are not giving me an opportunity because the AI tool that you use probably not shortlisting me? And I'm like, didn't you use ChatGPT to make your CV more ATS friendly, and get the ATS score higher? So if you can use it, why can't I? And it's like, if I have a choice and I have to pick 5 out of 100, I'm gonna use technology to shortlist. And then of course, I'm gonna meet the 10 to choose the best,
Correct.
right? But shortlisting, and if technology is there and it is helpful, why not?
And also that's interesting, right? Because then that is skewing you towards digital natives who are better able to. Is there a different way in which you'll recruit for more senior leadership roles to talk to me about it?
So when we look forward for senior leadership, we do a lot of behavioral assessment, which is very, very critical for senior leadership hiring. So we do go through their behavioral profile, and we do cross-check in terms of whether the person, what they are saying as on today, vis-a-vis how their profile goes, whether it is matching or not. I won't say that this is 100% safe, which will give you 100% results.
I mean, if you're a recruiter with a 100% result, you need to be making a lot more money.
But I feel that behavioral interviews coupled with the behavioral profiles have given us better results than when we were not using it. And I have also entered into maritime industry 3 years back. We were using similar practices in previous organizations which yielded much better results. So when we started utilizing in current organization, we are getting better output. We do understand people better. It's yielding results so far. Maybe with new technology coming into action, there will be more things which will be coming in, and I feel that it's very important that we keep pace with the technology. If we don't, the new generation, the new generations coming in, and the kind of people applying to the organization will be far behind. They won't be able to understand us. We won't be able to understand them.
You're creating a gap.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So
Gauri, I can see that you want to say something. I just have a quick question for our room. How many people here have used AI? Could you put your hands up? Fantastic. How many people, and I see people that haven't, and that fair play, please talk to our recruiters, they will have guidance for you. How many people here have used AI to apply for jobs? I mean, I'm going to put my hand up. Really? 2 of us. I was like, even if your HR is on the thing, I mean, they're literally saying, you basically said, we're going to use it, you should too, right? I mean, good to know, right? People are missing a trick. To you, Gauri.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I'm going to add on to what Ruchita said, is I completely agree that behavioral interviews or, the psychometric assessment is very crucial in the senior roles, and that's what exactly we are doing at Seaspan. And it's not only, again, about just one level up, assessment for that candidate or for that role. What we do is when there is a senior leadership hiring, we look at having the stakeholders from different functions and the cross-functional panel interviewing at different time intervals, the same candidate, be it senior or whatever. I think that helps because then any recruitment bias that you might have had in level 1 or level 2 discussions, I think it just pops up, and it's easier then to have the interaction or just kind of question certain decisions or remarks that are being made by the panel. So I think that
Give me 1 second. So Bhooshan and then Monal.
So just to add on to this, I think I'll take a step back and say that it is important to identify what competencies you are looking at for a certain role. So is it strategic thinking?
What's
is it decision making?
as well?
What is essential? And then you link it to either a psychometric assessment or a behavioral interview, whatever you're doing, and
you don't need a rocket engineer for every single role.
And then you have the results much better, like she said. The match is much better.
Mona?
So the use of psychometric, exactly to what Bhooshan said, is not limited to only the leadership roles. It also helps in getting the right cultural fit. So even for people down the line, and more so so one is the competency of the individual and the competency which is required for that particular job role. And the second is, what is the culture of your organization? And whether the person is actually fitting into your basic ethos. If, for example, I am a very, very ethical organization, very high on integrity, it really comes out very clearly in psychometric whether the person is aligned to that thought process or not. So cultural fit is another big piece.
Is that, and I'm gonna come to you, Simon, because I can see that you were waiting. Does that kind of fit, does that mean that, we talked about like hiring like, is that too much like hire like? Do you also need to hire for challenge?
No, yes, of course, but...
I mean, I suppose you're looking at values rather than behavior.
Yes, yes, and it's always good to have a fresh mind. It's always good to have people who can challenge your existing, people who can innovate, people who can improve. But the basic ethos needs to be in place.
Well, you have to know what you're trying to hire for,
yeah.
right? You've got to set them up for success. So Simon, I knew that you had a point that you wanted to add here, but I also have a question that I'm going to throw to you to tag on, which is, we've talked a lot about how we're using better language, we're trying to screen away bias. Is it working from what you're seeing in that? Are you seeing a more diverse pool of seafarers who are calling you for support as well? So whatever you needed to add, and then talk to us about what you're seeing at the receiving end.
Okay, just a quick observation then. It was about AI. Do we have confidence that AI does not in itself have a built-in bias?
It 100% does. I can tell you that now.
And, bearing in mind that it's actually built on what's put into it and who's putting that in. So I just throw that in because...
Definitely.
Within a recruitment process. So in terms of, remind me, it was the question.
I think the question that I was asking was, we're talking about having changed languages, we're talking about having interview
Yes.
panels. Hopefully, this is meaning that we're getting a wider variety of people, and I don't just mean in gender. I'm looking at neurodiversity, I'm looking at, my previous panel, we talked about having a policy for less abled people to be able to come into the sector. Are you actually seeing that at the coal front, or is it something where few and far between?
Probably a distorted view, because what we find is that people from more diverse groups actually use our service disproportionately.
Right.
Because in actual fact, they often are the ones who are subject to bullying and harassment, the ones who find it
They don't
most,
fit into the norm.
because they just don't fit into the norm. So we see that particularly with women, for example. So they are more likely to contact us for mental health support because of bullying and harassment. Now, is that because actually they're more ready to actually share the problems that they have and to reach out and get help? Or is it actually that the focus is on them? I think it's more the latter than the former. So there's a long way to go.
Right, I mean, and that is sobering, of course. Could I ask to pull up Simon's point? Obviously, you are working very, very hard in your recruitment processes to overcome bias. And this idea of bias being inbuilt to systems, we know it exists, right? Because the question is often, who trains the trainers, right? Very common in HR. Who is looking at your AI and making sure that it's happening? Do you have specialized AI experts who are coming in to vet things? Are you occasionally putting in, I mean, one of the companies that I spoke to before said they put in their CEO's CV to see if they would get the job, and they didn't. I was like, rejected. Right? How do you test it? Ruchita.
I think nowadays all the portals which are being used do come with AI bots.
Yes.
So yeah, they do come with AI bots, and you test the system, of course. Do I say that it's 100%?
Did you
No.
test your own CV? Were you like, will I get my job?
No, I have not tried.
I was like,
but
challenge
I'm sure
for
going
everybody.
to go and try. But that's why a recruiter is always there to see whether the output you are getting is in line with what you're looking forward for. And hence, when he mentioned about competence, whether the profile being pulled out is really a competent profile in terms of the job description you have, makes a lot of difference. So while we use technology to make your work a little fast, but at the same time, we need human intervention to see whether we are moving in the right direction as well.
And that's really interesting. I think I would also like to ask, how much faster is your hiring process now compared to, say, pre-AI? Is it significantly faster? Because I imagine that you're getting hundreds of candidates for every role, right?
The screening has improved a lot, but I would say that as you're using technology, being human also brings in challenges with the technology to think through that, we need to be really cautious in terms of our interviewing decisions and panels. And while we were talking about the interviewing panel, the interviewing panel has increased drastically from what we were doing earlier.
Correct, because it would just be the hiring manager and one other person, and now we're looking for diversity in the panel.
Yeah, plus we would want to have a more collaborative approach towards hiring as well, getting more people to interview and find out that whether what everybody is saying, we are on the right, we are hiring the right person, so that elimination of as much as bias can happen.
Bhooshan.
I think we're still testing it out with AI, right? Whether it's your Copilot or ChatGPT, it's right, but then like Simon said, garbage in, garbage out, so you don't want to trust it completely. So I think that has actually increased, I will concur with what she said, it actually increases your time to right, this person is being rejected by AI, but I want to be doubly sure. So till the time we get to that stage where you completely trust.
Right now.
Yes, and completely trust the AI model that you've selected, and now you are comfortable with its selection, non-selection. So I think that's going to take a little more time.
I think more than speed, it is the success rate or the quality. So I don't think, for me at least, for our organization, it is not about the speed of hiring, whether we are able to close positions quickly. But I think my success rate of selections have gone up compared to my earlier time. So the screening, the initial screening and selecting the right candidate for the next stage of interviews, that process has seen a significant improvement.
Could I pull you in, Gauri, and ask, with all of this and with the use of AI to overcome biases, are you seeing that be the case? Are you seeing greater diversity in the roles that you've closed? Are you seeing more women? Are you seeing more people who are neurodiverse?
I would say that yes. While we are not really using any AI tool as of now for screening, etc., I think we are still relying a lot on the human intelligence at every stage of selection, I will put it that way. But yes, I think diversity, because like Ruchita and Monal also said about job descriptions, right? As soon as you define them to be more inclusive, I think the one who is reading would also feel that, okay, even I can apply. So these are some of the nuances that one needs to be careful about, that your JDs are more inclusive, and your recruiter itself being a brand advocate in terms of even, talking about reaching out, the whole candidate experience. I think that's also something which brings in diversity, and word of mouth, of course, spreads, and employee referrals. I think people who are already in your organization, they are your best brand advocates. So they are the ones who are selling your organization, or they are selling the roles. I think in our organization, I've seen a great success with respect to employee referrals. And again, not being biased that just because our employee has referred someone, just, hey, go ahead and hire blindly. The person needs to go through the proper process, but that success rate is good.
But it's also good because, as you know, as we were talking earlier, they have a more clear idea of what they're likely to encounter. That cultural conversation has happened informally.
Absolutely.
Simon, I could see that you needed to add into this. Please do.
Sorry, my brain has been ticking away at something, and we haven't really talked about values. Now, I've worked in the NGO sector for the last 25 years, and when I recruit, actually, we're more interested in the values of the individual and the way that they think than their technical competencies. I work in an organisation, we've got 80% of the team are women. And that's quite normal within NGOs.
I was about to say, in cultures of care, you will see a lot of women. It is,
but the values are incredibly important. Now, it seems to me that within this industry, actually the emphasis is very much on technical ability to be able to do things. And I think we also have to bear in mind that the future workforce, also, they have different thoughts on this. A recruitment process is a two-way thing. Actually, the person themselves may make a decision once they've been through your recruitment process that no, they don't want to work for you.
Yep.
And it seems to me that younger people are going to be interested in the values of an organisation. They will be actually thinking, what's the culture going to be? Will I be accepted? Will I be able to contribute? Will I be able to speak out?
Will I have a work-life balance at all?
Exactly, yes. And they will look for those things. So I think I just wanted to throw that in.
It's a 5-minute warning. We're fine. Quick question for the audience. If you put your hands up, how many of you would reject a job if you felt like it didn't align with your values? Actually, quite a lot. Same. Lovely. That's a really good way to kind of round up our audience, because no, we're not done yet. Don't get excited. We have a very quick roundup question for all of you. So, if you had the magical power to mandate a change across the industry for recruitment, right, and people would have to do it, what would the thing be? And I'm not going to make you go first, don't panic, but I'm going to make you go first. So, Monal.
I think for me, increasing the gender diversity is one of the key things.
How would you mandate that?
It should not be it should be both in letter and spirit. And ideally, the leadership and people down the line, including the hiring managers, should be willing to take sure-shot KPIs and ensure that those numbers are met.
Fantastic. So you're using data to mandate far more gender parity. Fantastic. Gauri.
I think I'll also do the same.
Different one. Come on. You have more. Hers is already being forced into action.
Let me think.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Ruchika.
If I have to change and I get the power, I would like to put it in two very important words. One, it has to be equitable and fairer. So, no bias is very, very important, of course. Being a woman, I should not say, but I am very much focused on when a job is out there, it should not say that this is for a man or a woman. It should talk about equity. We would want to provide you equal opportunity for you to prove yourself. That's what is important. Basis your competence. And I'm sure that all the women sitting over here, nobody would want to walk out with a job letter in hand if you are told that you are hired because you are a woman. You want to be hired because of your competence. So equity and being fairer is very, very critical and important.
For the long-term career, absolutely. But depending on the salary of the role, I will take a role that. Sorry, Bhooshan.
I'll use this magic to kind of time travel and get something which I know would happen in time, but bring it much earlier, and probably in every organization have a women role model which people can look up to and say, okay, you know what, if she can become a captain, I will too. And that would, for me, that magic, if I can get, I know it will happen in like maybe next 5 years, but can I do it tomorrow? I'll do that tomorrow.
I feel like, having actual requirement of female leadership across various different roles, that visibility. We had somebody here earlier who talked about when they brought women into a role, they had a 26% increase in women applying for the role because they knew that women could, right? Like, that's fantastic. Gauri, are you ready? Because then I'm going to come to Simon, and then I have an opinion. Surprise.
I think if I have the magic, I think I'll ensure that I have a lot of women in the boardroom, because today in my leadership in Mumbai office, I'm the only lady in that. So I would want to see the room full of women and then normalize gender diversity, and I want that nobody talks about the gender diversity anymore. So I will look for that.
Fantastic. Simon, over to you.
I think, firstly, you need a company culture that clearly and boldly expresses that actually we are serious about diversity.
Yes.
And then that has to filter right down through the recruitment process so that the recruitment process reflects that. Mm-hmm. And also take into account where recruitment is outsourced. And the distance, I guess, between the company culture and actually who is doing the recruiting.
Yeah, you want to close that gap.
Yes.
And for me, a thing that I think is really important, and we sort of touched upon it, but we didn't really get into it. I would love job descriptions which are trying to be gender neutral, to talk about the support systems that you will get to learn the role in the role, right? We talked about it earlier. Women are very nervous about doing roles where you might fail, because then you'll be that woman that failed. She definitely only got the job because she was a woman. Whereas if I know I'm going to be trained, if I know I'm going to be supported, if I know I'm going to be set up for success, if I know there's room for me to have a bad day and get it wrong and still be welcomed back, really important. So, Gauri, add on.
Just one more magic I will want to do is just build a sisterhood in the organization.
Hell
because
yeah.
they say women are not supportive of each other, I think, but that's where I think we need to make that change.
It's a vicious rumor. I think we all love each other.
Of course.
Right. So I hope you will all join me in thanking my delightful panel for sharing their wisdom with us. If you are somebody who is looking for jobs or thinking about how best to improve your recruitment, we have experts. Come find them in the coffee break. Ask them for their magical wisdom, and please enjoy. Thank you very much. And